What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 50 of Value Town, a podcast talk show all about Hearthstone. I'm ChanManV, joined today by well-known host and caster Frodan. What's going on, Dan?
Not much. I woke up, so my voice might sound a little weird. And that's also because I don't have time to do my hair and stuff, so I wore a hat. So I apologize for looking like a douchebag.
It's all good, man.
I'm a Hearthstone douchebag. So.
No, I appreciate you being on the show, buddy. And then, of course, we have player from Team Liquid, Savjz. How's it going?
Going all right. Just took a nap. Woke up a little while ago. I woke up really early this morning and still a bit jet lagged from the 24-hour stream, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys recover from 24 hours. Like, do you usually sleep like 14 hours the next day, or just over the next 3 or 4 days you kind of adjust?
Yeah, still recovering a little bit. It was interesting.
Okay. And guys, we'll have Eloise on the show too from Team Tempo Storm. She'll be joining us a little bit later. We're going to get through a few news topics and then have her come on for the fun segments that we have for the show. But today we've got topic-wise news. Like I said, we're gonna some last comments on the Warsong Commander since the nerf did actually kick in yesterday, I believe. Take a look at Tavern Brawl for the first time, like we always do, and then we got some fun co-op deck building segments. One new one actually I'm introducing today that should be a lot of fun. Hopefully some decks that you guys can try out after the show. Q&A as always at the end, and you can post your questions here. I'm posting it in the Twitch chat real quick, or you can just tweet it to me at ChanManV, and I'll try to read it out to you. Okay, so let's get started with some news. BlizzCon Schedule came out yesterday, and for both days, Friday and Saturday. Let me show you guys real quick. Let me bring it up on the screen real quick here. One interesting thing that I saw was a description for one of the Hearthstone panels. And the description was, or the title of the actual panel is What's Next. And the description is, come warm yourself by the hearth and hear a tale of adventures yet to come. So wasn't sure if it was literal, that there's probably going to be an adventure coming soon. I'm not sure. What do you guys think? What do you think is going to be announced at BlizzCon? Or if you guys know already, I guess, what can you maybe say? Frodan, anything?
I talk to Blizzard quite often, so I am a little aware of what's coming up. But this shouldn't really come as a surprise. Last year at BlizzCon, they announced GVG, and a card game like Hearthstone. One of the ways it actually can die is if no content comes out, because the whole point of card games is to constantly evolve and whatnot. So I wouldn't be terribly surprised if something got announced at BlizzCon.
Whoa, whoa! All right, Savjz, speculate. Since he can't say.
New content. At minimum, like a new expansion or adventure, I would guess. I'm not sure if there's going to be something else.
God, I hope there is, though. Yeah, adventure is kind of what I'm expecting too, but I'm hoping for any little added feature like tournament mode.
I think people will definitely be looking forward to what part of WoW or World of Warcraft that they'll eventually go from, because I think everyone's theorizing that after the Argent tournament, Ice Crown would happen. I didn't really play much WoW, so forgive me, anybody who's kind of a purist. I learned most of my WoW lore actually through Hearthstone.
Yeah, me too, actually.
But apparently, after they did the Argent tournament, they went to raid the Lich King or something like that, and they went to Ice Crown. So that probably could. That's there's a strong likelihood of that's what's coming up next.
Okay.
And that would be really cool as an adventure more than an expansion. Although I guess if you want more content, the expansions are always cool. But I'm a big fan of adventures in general, because expansions are when you hit them nonstop with a lot of packs, it's really easy for people to fall behind. It's really hard for new players to come into. And Hearthstone keeps getting a lot of new players, so I think adventures are a perfect halfway point. It's new content as long as it's impactful cards.
Yeah.
And the adventures are really fun for a lot of those new players to play in the very beginning.
Yeah, my son actually, he loves playing the adventures. I mean, he just got BlackRock and has just been playing through it. I make him earn them all, so I'm such a cruel dad. No, but he earns them all through gold and stuff. So he's just getting to BlackRock right now, and really enjoying it. So
Do you make him learn math? Do you teach him through Patron Warrior?
no,
Like,
of
no,
course not.
how will my son? I have to send him to Kumon
Oh,
again.
come on. Oh my gosh. No, you'd hate that.
We save so much money through that.
Yeah, right. No, but Patron. Well, actually, there's still some Patron Warriors or versions of Patron Warriors still out there. In fact, Eloise I think was playing one just a second ago and just crushing the ladder with it. So I don't think Patron's gone completely. Well, we'll talk about more Patron a little bit more in a topic with Warsong soon. But one,
I'm
yeah,
hoping.
go ahead.
I'm hoping to see a little bit of maybe power creep from whatever expansion or adventures coming out. I want to see new cards about new strategies. Even with patrons now nerfed, I think that TGT impact was not as high as I would have hoped. So,
Yeah.
tiny bit of power creep, please.
What?
You want power creep?
What? Okay, wait.
You want power
What is
creep?
the what's,
Wow.
what's the deck that people say is number one after Patron's gone?
Paladin,
Paladin,
And
right?
What really made that Paladin shine?
Mysterious Challenger, but I don't think
What
it is.
expansion did that come from?
No, but that's just a cheap deck, and that's like popular. That's true. It's like on ladder, it's popular. But how much do we see it in tournament play, really? I guess we'll look at the Star Ladder deck list soon. I'm not sure if somebody played it there.
Right.
But I don't think it's.
No,
very
it wasn't
good.
played that much there. I mean, some people did play it, but it wasn't like prevalent like Patron is. At least at Star Ladder.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll see in the upcoming turn. I mean, Patron is still obviously there, so it was still unnerved, right, for the tournament. I guess we won't know for sure until we see, I guess, BlizzCon. So one thing that was discussed on Reddit yesterday too was there was an image of a screen that made it look like possible co-op adventures or something of the sort. That would be pretty
That's
cool.
really sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's really cool because one of the things. So sorry, I just woke up, so my thoughts are always like very.
It's all good.
Like,
It's
I
all
get into
good.
it myself a lot because I'm not really formulating very coherent thoughts and sentences. I always talked about things with people like, what does Hearthstone need to grow, and a lot of them agree like new content's important as well as like being able to have like good tournaments and good formats, etc. But one thing that I think that everyone can unanimously agree upon, because those previous points you can always debate, right? Like how often should they release content, or what type of formats, or what's like good? Is it Conquest? Is it Last Hero Standing, etc. One thing that I think every topic that I bring this up with, and people unanimously agree upon, is social interaction in Hearthstone. And I think that is another avenue of which like Hearthstone could completely lose a section of its player base for no reason at all. The lack of ability to interact with people is sometimes good because you don't really want to interact with card game players after they lose a game,
Yep.
with Hearthstone cards. But the other end of it is that it makes the staying power sometimes a little bit shallow. You don't have the ability to connect with people. Like I always talk to Blizzard, like they always ask like, what can we do to make Hearthstone better? I'm like, well, give me a lot of different ways I can connect with people, whether it's through clan tags or being able to share screenshots and deck lists very quickly, or people have been requesting for the ability to spectate other people's arenas. That's always fun. Have the ability to just kind of jump in and watch other people for a long time, or even just like a button on the corner of the screen that says like find local fireside gatherings or find players local to you to just like play more Hearthstone stuff. Like that kind of stuff should exist, but it's it's kind of like they have a lot of things that they want to prioritize. So I always talk about social aspects of Hearthstone being a really important part, and I think if this co-op mode actually ends up coming out soon, that'll be really an awesome way for people to continue to play Hearthstone together as opposed to against each other all the time.
Yeah.
Because the only other way that you can do it is through like playing on one account together, and even then that's not it's not always conducive to it if you're like on iPad and whatnot because it's like a small screen. So I think this is going to be really sweet.
Yeah. Savjz, thoughts? Co-op?
No, I would absolutely love to see that. The co-op thing, I don't think it should be anything like serious or anything too challenging or rewarding or anything. Just like something goofy, and I think we could spice things up like Tavern Brawl in kind of similar way.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Social would be great. I mean, that's been always one of the challenges, I guess, for 1v1 type of games, just game designs, and I think in general is really losing the casual or not being completely efficient from the standpoint of like casual gaming, being able to play with your friends. Because like I know even just like with League of Legends, right? Like I just play League of Legends with my friends. Like I never solo queue or anything like that, right? And whenever I do, it's just it's a way to hang out with them and just socialize and that sort of thing too while you're playing the game. Where you can't really do that in Hearthstone except for maybe with one other friend that's obsing you. Maybe you're on Skype or something and just just having a good time, that sort of thing. But that's about the closest thing that you can do it. Nothing really in game. It's still like a little external. So co-op would be great. Definitely be great.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Another thing with the schedule is that it looks like the round of 8 is going to be played at the BlizzCon. I actually had heard the rumor that it was only going to be round of 4, which I was disappointed because I was wanting to see a lot of matches on whatever cool stage they're going to have there. Yeah. So was happy to see round of 8.
Yeah, so there's two things to it. The first is that I think there needs to be constant stage activity because Blizzard last year they invested a lot into this awesome Tavern stage, and if they're going to do the same exact thing this year, then they kind of want it to always have something happen, right? They don't want it to just have 2 days where it's like a couple hours here, a couple hours there. So they want to fill the schedule. The second thing is that I think it's important is that they actually show every game possible because getting to BlizzCon is such a huge achievement. They're going to be winning a lot of money just for showing up at BlizzCon because they qualified for it. And one thing that happened in Europe that so I was actually with Savjz, is that some people came to the event, they flew all the way across the continent, and they didn't get shown on stream once. Their matches weren't played. They were played off stream for the first winners bracket match, and then they were eliminated off stream, which is just such a shame. I can understand the reason why they were doing that is because they were trying to chain the finals on day 2 for European Road to BlizzCon, but. I was pissed, man. I was like, I can't believe I didn't see like Jira, who's like this weird dark horse from Italy, which could be huge for that scene. Plus, cool to see new faces. And then the guy that I was like rooting for to go to the finals, Maverick, I didn't even get to see him, and he was playing the coolest deck of the entire tournament. It was Dragon Mage, and he won those games. Like apparently he was losing with Handlock more than Dragon Mage. So those are the kind of stuff that people want to see, they want to hear about. And Blizzard's really making sure at BlizzCon that kind of stuff doesn't happen. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was a bit of a shame that 2 players, like you mentioned, got knocked out of the tournament in backstage. Just getting to play in front of the live audience, getting to be on the stream, like that would have been something that to remember. So a bit unfortunate. Maverick right after the tournament announced his retirement, and I don't know if we'll see Jera again either. Not sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. At least because I know those Italian players from remote regions, they don't get much. Help or representation. No. I mean, those kinds of guys, this is one of their opportunities to either make an impact on the scene or just exit without any fanfare. And I think once again, it's the latter here. But I mean, that's I don't think that's even necessarily like Blizzard's fault per se. I think it was just organizationally made by like the local people there when we were at Prague. So what they're going to do is they're going to have next week play through the entire round of 16 all the way to the round of 8 for BlizzCon. So BlizzCon starts next week, which is kind of like insane to think about.
Yeah, I've heard people are going to be there for 2 weeks. Basically, you're going to be there for BlizzCon for 2 weeks, which is going to be crazy. Actually, Dan, you live pretty close to. Do you live close? Santa Monica close to Burbank? I can't even remember.
Yeah, it's about like 45 minutes away.
Oh, okay, yeah, so that's pretty local for you. That's cool. But I agree with that. I think that this is supposed to be the biggest storyline for Hearthstone, right? In the competitive aspect of Hearthstone. And when these players get this far, they should absolutely get as much exposure as they can possibly get. This is, especially for the unknown players, like the Maverick and just the Italian players for sure. And the production teams really need to take that into account in the future. And I think BlizzCon will be fine. I think they'll show everything at BlizzCon, which is absolutely appropriate. If they don't, I'd be super pissed too.
I saw a question in chat that people are like, why didn't they invite Firebat or have him play a role in it? That's a really good question.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think actually I brought it up with Blizzard, and I was like, either you should consider inviting Firebat back to BlizzCon to do something or even compete in the tournament, kind of like having the champion defend its title. Also, Firebat got screwed, man. Like,
oh god, yeah.
Like, so EU takes the top 8, Asia takes the top 8, China takes the top 8, America takes the top 6, and then combines with Latin America. And then Latin America ends up going directly to the NA finals, kind of like affirmative action, if you will. It's like they get an assigned part of like 2 seeds have to go through Latin America. And Firebat finished top 8 as well and had to lose against Trump, as well as Bloody Face. So that kind of sucked that he got the cutoff in the region that ends up being his home region. So if that didn't happen, Firebat would have gotten to San Francisco and potentially could have also qualified for BlizzCon. Definitely had a high chance to. And then he would have been there back-to-back years.
Yeah.
For BlizzCon.
At the very least.
But Hearthstone's all RNG. There's no skill involved.
Well, I mean, if anybody ever repeated, that would be an amazing feat, given, just given them the probability in Hearthstone just generally. So, but Firebat, having that kind of bridge, just storyline bridge would be great. At least have him back to give maybe the trophy or so something like that, right? At least to still recognize him at least as the past champion, that sort of thing. I think one of the things I haven't loved about, like StarCraft 2 and that sort of thing is that when somebody wins an event, I feel like people just forget like a month later, like you don't really have that title feeling, that you're holding this kind of title for a long period of time. And Hearthstone, we only have one. I mean, it should have been a year-long kind of reign for Firebat, but I don't feel like it's like that.
Well, I think there's many love layers to what you just said. Mm-hmm. I think the first was that there were so many StarCraft events, even like winning GSL, which for anybody who doesn't know is like the Korean League, which Koreans are pretty freaking good at StarCraft. If you need any reference point and you only watch Hearthstone, just ask Forsen how it was competing in StarCraft professionally. He'll tell you. So Koreans are really good at StarCraft, but they had like monthly tournaments that like would be like the prestigious win. So like as soon as one would win, there would be literally like another champion the month after. So then it was just kind of like hard to really follow that a little bit if you weren't watching it very religiously. But then even when they spaced it out, there were happening like events everywhere. There was like MLG, mm-hmm. There was like IEM, there was DreamHack, and there was all these other different things. So that kind of happens in Hearthstone too. It's like if you win, Seat Story, like Savjz won Seat Story, one of the hardest tournaments out there, mm-hmm. and then a couple weeks later DreamHack happens, and then Kalento wins that, and it's like, well, who's actually like the dominant player of the month, or who kind of like reigns over it. With BlizzCon last year, the player pool wasn't actually the strongest. Like I think Firebat, like in retrospect, Firebat mm-hmm. was definitely one of the favorites to go really far, as well as Strive Pro and Kalento. But this year is not going to be the case. There's actually like a pretty good talent pool, I think, for the top 16 of BlizzCon.
Well, I mean, just the number of players in the last year has probably grown by, I don't know, 20-30% for Hearthstone. So you would have to, it's just a natural kind of progression, right? There's got to be a lot more good players now in the world. And so, yeah, I think it would be extremely tough for, even if Firebat got to Burbank, it would be crazy. It would just be an amazing feat. And but to your point about just having different winners each and every week, yeah, I feel like you have to win like multiple weeks for you to even kind of show up, like kind of you show up to the community or get attention that, hey, this guy is, he might actually be the best player right now. That's another problem I think we have with Hearthstone. Is like we never know who the best player is at any given moment because of the the variant, right? With just the variant in the game that causes for different results to happen, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yep. It's kind of it's impossible to tell, and many times if somebody wins 3-2, it could have been 2-3, mm-hmm. just as easily based on something small that could have been different. And when players are so good, it's so hard to tell.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of depends. So there's two like opposite ends of the spectrum. The first spectrum is that people really don't want any RNG. They want like a competitive format where the best player wins. And I look at guys like Tides of Time being in this category, where like he can win 99 ladder games in a row, but if he loses one thereafter, he gets super pissed because he just feels like it's undeserved. Right. No matter who it is, it could be the most ridiculous like vanilla deck out there. He could lose to Reincarnate Shaman. He'd get legitimately mad. But it's one of these. Actually, that's an exaggeration. It's more like Leper Gnome and Divine Favor that pisses him off. There's that, and then there's people who are like, no, like, the more accessible it is, the better it is for everyone to kind of come into the game, and they enjoy having the randomness because they don't want to see patron every game. They don't want to see handlock every game. And, all these decks have one thing in common is that they draw their deck. There's minimal impacts of like, deal 3 to 7 damage, 3 to 6 damage like Crackle. And they're very consistent. So there's two schools of thought that kind of clash that you might fall somewhere in the middle. But the point is that there's no perfect solution, because either we get to the point where the metagame's figured out, it's refined, it's optimized, but it gets kind of boring because you get to see players just do pattern memorization, where they just kind of recite scenarios that they've practiced a billion times with patron, and then just like, well, I know instantly I have 27 damage because I'm just going to play it. That's what it got to that point where like people aren't really like solving puzzles anymore. It's like, well, I can count to 27 now. I'm going to count to 35 now. I'm going to count to 72 with 2 Frothing Berserkers. But then there's the other side where like there's a lot of variance, and the best pro player, and I put that in quotation marks because we don't know who's the best, has like a 56% win rate. Like
exactly.
That's so bad. Like it's like he's not actually that favored against other people, where it should be more if you kind of separate the very top from the very bottom. But there's even more layers to that as well. The people who have 56% win rate are also the people who are playing against people or other players who have similar skill levels. If they play against worse players, it's definitely a much higher percentage. But when you hit a certain threshold, which a lot of players do by now, it literally is 3-2, 2-3, 3-2, 2-3, just like Savjz.
Yeah. So Savjz, what are your thoughts on those comments?
Sorry.
Well, I mean, what do you think about just players? Well, those two school of thoughts. Players. I feel like players generally play the higher percentage, less RNG type of decks. Because it's more consistent, and you do have can control those type of things.
Well, I don't fully agree with what Frodan said. I mean, I think there's many types of RNG, and the library on its own is one huge source of RNG. And it's like the stuff that people complain about is more like the in-your-face RNG, the implosions and knife juggles and that stuff. I don't know like how necessary that is. So but there is there is truth to it as well. Like if it was all about just memorizing the patterns, and when you play Control Warrior against another slow deck, it quite often is just like the experience, and all of the games would look fairly similar. So I don't know.
A little bit has to do with a little bit could be solved in terms of just the formatting of the tournaments and the events. Instead of having so much pressure just on the devs or the designers to come up with some kind of magical kind of design that covers every kind of situation that's entertaining and heavily skill based. But I feel like the event the event organizers could help with that. Instead of just having Conquest, which has resulted in every player just picking the highest winning percentage decks, right, and just bringing those.
Yeah, seems like Conquest is pretty well figured out, and then there's not much strategy. This is my personal opinion. There's like no strategy going into it. Like a lot of people tried this stuff. Like for example, I tried doing the hard countering thing where you just, for example, if everybody's bringing Hunter, you pick 3 classes that all beat Hunter, but you can't get the win rates high enough to justify it. Then it just hurts in other matchups. And somebody might not bring it. So, we're all kind of stuck with them. With just everybody bringing the strongest classes, and then you just roll the dice on what matchups you get. And the more I've seen Conquest, the more I started to dislike it. And I hope we're gonna have a different format for next year.
Okay, well, let's move on. That was a long talk. We kind of got off the tangent there, but definitely great.
Are we talking about Conquest? We can talk about Conquest.
Well, no, let's not talk about Conquest quite yet, because
maybe not.
Here's the thing.
Okay, all right.
Okay, if it was like 2 months, maybe a few tournaments, maybe one tournament, like a one-off thing. But now it's like when you announce at the beginning of the year, which is really dangerous precedent for Blizzard to do. Then that kind of like makes everyone feel like they have to do it, and that's why like tournaments like Via Games stood out so much, because they actually had the balls to be unique. And what's really funny is that I talked to people like ESL, and I talked to like DreamHack, and I was like, you guys can do something different that's not Conquest, and Blizzard would still accept you as part of their points in the ecosystem. But they just felt like no, like this is too like Blizzard. This is the Blizzard format. We want people to feel like they're kind of plugging in and getting their points in the road to BlizzCon. So like because Blizzard announced at the beginning of the year and said this is what we're going to use for November, like this is an untested format. We don't actually see people compete in this at all, and we're going to do it for the entire year. Like of course it's going to get figured out and exhausted. I mean, by the end of last year's standing, people were sick of it too because they saw Zoo sweeping everything, Hunter sweeping everything, and they didn't want to see that either. So, people were asking for format changes all the time, but I think that's kind of like, why multiple formats are super important in Hearthstone. Like, I hope Arena gets more attention eventually, which I guess we'll talk about.
Yeah.
I hope more limited formats like Challenge Stone can come out, but in a more consistent basis, as opposed to us coming up with, the gimmick deck building for the month. So those kinds of things are really important to come out, but people don't innovate. Like, what blows my mind? So many people complain about Conquest, but yet no one has like done single deck format or anything like that either. Like the most basic pure form of card games in terms of how you play decks and whatnot. No one's even really tried to do it at a large scale. No one, which is like mind-boggling compared to how much people complain about.
There's too much cookie cutting in our community. Everybody's just copying each other, and there's way too much of that. I think what would be cool is if we had kind of some type of major design, majors type of design, and each of the majors had a different format. And then what do we do at the end? We kind of come up with, but it would be cool if, very highly significant tournaments, adopted some of these different formats, and then that would force, that would definitely force people to have different strategies for different events, and it would keep things fresh. Because Conquest when it first came out was just like, oh yes, everybody loved it, right? And then now we're at a point where it's just completely stagnant and stale. So if we could figure out a way to do that or at least some sort of design, or just kind of a world championship type of design that had that sort of premise, that would be pretty good, I think, for Hearthstone. All right, well, let's move on because we have another big topic. We spent a long time on that one, but the ASUS ROG Play It Cool event happened this past weekend, and Savjz obviously being a big part of that event. For those of you who didn't watch the event, it was a 4-man, 24-hour stream race to see who could get to the highest rank, starting from a fresh account. The big angle to this was that people could help each of the players out by giving them packs, in the form of social media, like tweeting, and various things like that. But in the end, the goal was to get who could get the highest rank, in Legend or whatnot. So cool event, definitely a really cool event, but a lot of controversy at the end of the event for how it ended. Savjz being part of it. Savjz and Forsen were there at the end. And for those of you that didn't see the end, basically it was concluded that both of them tied at rank 15. And they ended up playing a best of 3 after 24 hours, and it resulted in Forsen winning. But there was definitely a lot of controversy with the tie, and like, was it really a tie? Like, what were the rules? And I wanted to have Savjz come on and really talk about his side of it, because it ended in a really very unsatisfactory way for, I think, everybody, the viewers, the players, and everything. So, Savjz, why don't you give your take on this whole thing?
Okay, I'm gonna try to contain myself as well as I can, because it's like a kind of a hot topic or something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. So I'm gonna first off, I'm gonna clear some things about that. Like me and Forsen, we are all good. Like, we are bros. Nothing has changed, and I don't blame Forsen for anything that happened. There's nothing, like, because a lot of people think, oh, we're like fighting or whatever. That's absolutely not the case. Second thing is that the DreamHack, I've been to many DreamHack events. They've always been nothing but nice to me, and I think that their production and everything is like super top, and they're great people. But this ruling after like those 30 hours, it just it was very sad. Should you maybe pull the rules on the screen?
Yeah, let me show the rules here. I was pulling that up here.
Just so we can clarify and argue and interpret it many ways.
Okay,
yeah. So what happened was that the tie was from from the 115. I finished my game first, and what popped on my screen was 115. Then Forsen finished his game after me, and what popped on his screen was also 115. But at that point, when we refreshed the rankings, I was 112. So at the time when Forsen actually finished his game, my ranking was 112 and not 115. Like we know, it's not possible to have the same rank in Legend. And
Right.
there's the rules. So this is like the way I see it. Every segment, every contest, and every pause for a duel. So every player finishes their current game. So just like based on that, I think it's kind of clear that my
Yeah.
ranks have been counted from like the point when Forsen finished his game, and not from where I finished my game.
Yeah, I mean, based on the rules there, it should have been after the last person finishes, we look at the ranks, right? And that's it.
The thing. I think there's absolutely nothing unclear about it. And I want to also point out that this is all the rules. Like there's no more. There's not an
this whole
extra page of rules anywhere. It's all here. There's nothing else. Like the stuff that was handed out to us. It's the same stuff that's on the page that you are reading right now, and there's nothing more to it. So what happened after the game was like I was very sad that they were like saying that they were asking me, am I okay playing the tiebreaker? And I said no. And then it was half an hour of that, like, can you play the tiebreaker? I'm saying no, I'm not okay with playing the tiebreaker. I won, and that kept going on for a good while.
They literally just
Well,
keep
well,
asking you the same question, like
I mean,
15 times.
did they keep asking you because
They wanted an approval.
Like,
from
okay, I
me.
hear what you're saying, but how about this? Tiebreaker. You're like,
They wanted an approval.
no.
from
They just keep asking you.
I am okay with this, and I wanna be perfectly clear about it. I never said that I'm okay with the tiebreaker. I did not accept that. There was a final ruling. Then, like, eventually, some guy that whose name I don't know was told me that the decision is made, and the tiebreaker will be played.
wow, really?
And
Okay.
I'm just like, I say nothing. I walk to my thing. I'm just like completely devastated. I know that I'm playing against a face hunter. I beat most of the hunters that I played with my wallet, but face hunter is way more difficult. And I was so sad at that moment. I didn't even make any changes to my deck. I could have taken out flame imps and like try to improve the matchup somehow, but it's just like it was so crushing. So yeah.
What was the reason?
Because if I said yes to that tiebreaker, I guess I would have in some way I would have like if I said that I'm okay with it, I would have kind of said that I agree with their ruling. But I just wanted to make clear that never happened, and it was just like it was only like it was against my will that they made the decision. I never approved the tiebreaker decision.
Did they give you a reasoning behind why they kept asking you that? I mean, were they saying that? Oh no, it's a tie. That's why you should play. Like it was a tie.
No, like it seemed to me like they didn't know what they were doing. Like they were unsure about their own ruling. That's why they needed one because it wasn't clear, and they told me that the screen the reason why because I was asking why would we play a tiebreaker. Like my finishing rank, we can go. I told them, let's go to the computers right now, check the ranks. Like that's not what it is. And even if we wait 10 hours or we wait 7 days, I'm still gonna be higher on the ladder. Like there's nothing unclear. Like I went to get the rule sheet. I had the paper in my hand, and like there's nothing unclear about it to me. And just like okay, well, you're playing right. Like
Yeah.
it still blows my mind.
Yeah, that's pretty I mean, normally if you're going to make a decision, right? I mean, besides the rules being just the absolute thing that you should abide by, you would think that there's some kind of, I don't know, there's some kind of reason or some kind of pushback as to do it for, I mean, you know what I mean? Like there's got to be some logic behind it, whether it's right or wrong. So I don't understand how they could decide on that. I mean,
the logic was that it popped up on my screen.
Yeah,
Like, the 115 popped on my screen and the 115 popped on his screen. and
Well, I guess
that
the
was
question
like,
is, was Forsen insisting on the tiebreaker or not?
I actually
No, of
don't
course
know.
not.
I was awake for like
Yeah,
30
I
something hours at that point. So this
he
is like I probably should know, but I actually have no idea.
yeah, because he looked like he felt bad after the whole thing too. So I
Yeah.
mean, I
Well,
don't know if he did or not, but I would guess he wasn't.
it's like everything that happened after that also was just bad, like a disaster.
Yeah,
It was just bad because like
it's
Forsen was getting donations from viewers about Saviz's hand.
yeah,
Then
that
Forsen
too.
muted it, and he ended up losing that game anyways. That he got information from Saviz's hand, but it's just literally like the same thing with RDO and Amaz. It's like
Hmm.
basically people being dumbasses and being proud of it too. Like that's like the amazing thing throughout the entire tournament. There was people doing this to streamers like Reynad. They were roping him, or same thing with Forsen, and they would go and brag about it on forums like, "Oh, I promised my friends I'd do this," or like everyone should be doing this too. And they're like, "If I'm trolling them, you should be trolling them because it's hilarious." And it's like, no, man, there's actually real people behind that screen. Stop being a goddamn clown. Some of these
Yeah.
people are just they're actually it's just like it blows my mind how they just don't understand some of the ramifications of what they do. I'm actually like listening. I actually read the chat that like apparently the guy that even conceded that final game to Forsen is like trying to post it on like social media in Sweden, and like kind of like trying to
What?
leverage that or something and take advantage
Ugh.
of it. Like, dude, like it's so wrong to play with people's emotions like that. Like you see scandals all the time, and what's amazing is that I know that there's so many people who like look at things that happen. They're like, no, that's such a tragedy. How can people be that scummy or that stupid or like that idiotic? But we're actually literally doing those kinds of exact same things. No, that said, I'm not against having fun. I don't really mind people like trying to, having fun and getting salty about stuff. Like, Reynad, the whole him not even hitting legend thing is just goddamn hilarious. Like, it's so funny. I just literally kept laughing the entire time. And after the event, Reynad was laughing too about it. But I just can't believe like
Yeah.
that some people would be really. This is like just being able to see Savjz after the event like broke my heart too. Just like this kind of sucks. That literally like this is exactly the way to ruin an event, and you ruined it for everybody. And if you want to have that power, then you can always take advantage of it, but you can always blame the DreamHack people for not putting delay on. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm just rambling at this point, but it's just like I'm mad
Yeah,
too. Like this
yeah.
sucks. You guys ruined, not you guys, but the people who did it like ruined a really good event.
It's
It was just so it was really fun up until that point. And the way it was exited just like made the worst ending possible.
yeah, it's definitely a
Just
great
sucks,
form. It's a
period.
definitely great format and creative. One of the most creative events actually we have, right? Is this Play It Cool event, and I agree. It was there's always going to be those people out, and it's like I agree. Those people are dumbasses, and you shouldn't obviously be doing this. Everybody does these type of events for us, for the community to get entertainment from it. So basically, trolling it and ruining it is like, I mean, that doesn't accomplish anything, productive, at least for creating these type of events. So obviously that's terrible, but the reality of it is there are going to be people that do it regardless. So it is up to the organizers to try to figure out the best way, not to prevent this from happening. And a lot of lessons learned here. Obviously different accounts, accounts not being public, I think would be a good thing, just so that they might not know that they're playing, one of you guys. So you were gonna mention something?
Yeah, I mean, there's still like more of that. So, like, even the last game, like there was not a lot of win trading, so to say. Like people
Yeah,
were giving up the games. Like I don't know if you saw that, but Forsen's opponent in his very last game actually had lethal on board and he
yeah,
chose to keep his own face
yeah,
instead of finishing. But that was kind of like when we signed up for the thing, we knew that might happen at times, and there's not really anything that can be done. And the ladder is not designed for that. So like, it's not designed for this kind of racing and playing without delay and our nicknames visible
yeah.
and stuff.
It's still possible though. It's
Yeah.
not that we can't. You couldn't prevent it, just even from production wise.
Yeah. But anyway, after the thing, when I like Frodan said that he saw me sad, I've actually never been like that mentally crushed Like they literally like stole $5,000 from me, and it's like coming from DreamHack who I have so much respect for. Like it was so soul crushing, and the first thing on my mind was like, how do I let everybody like know what just like happened to me? But then like the best stuff ever happened when I woke up the next morning. Like the amount of tweets, the amount of like the stuff on Reddit, like the Facebook messages, like the community support, like it was so insane. Like I have some stuff on my Facebook message from some guy, for example, who sent ASUS directly like some like emails and stuff. And so there's like a hilarious long chain of like
Wow.
how DreamHack fucked up, and that's just like that really warms my heart. And it's like all the tweets. Yesterday's stream, I
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what was like going on. I got a donation like let's get the train started. It started with $5, and I ended up getting 2.5 thousand in donations
Wow.
yesterday, and that's a ridiculous amount. That's more than I get over multiple months in a general. I don't usually get many donations, so that's more than I get over. Like I think that's more than I got then in like 2 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just I don't feel like I have to like my first instinct was like I need to let people know what happened to me. But now I realize that it actually like 60,000 people saw it live exactly how I got screwed. So I don't really have to do anything, I suppose. Like the way I see it, this just DreamHack just like kind of screwed themselves, and I'm just like I guess in some ways I kind of benefited from it because like
Well,
I mean, I don't know. Like, if the community takes my side that strongly,
yeah, yeah.
it's really a nice feeling.
Yeah, definitely corrected itself, which is kudos to the community for doing that. And there was a ton of support, even like whether it's Reddit or Twitch chat, just Twitch chat. Everybody saw what happened.
Oh,
So like to
Twitch
your point, Twitch chat.
There's a couple things I want to bring up too, just to close the topic. So I don't want to spend too much more time on it.
Yeah, exactly.
The first is that I don't really blame Forsen for
No.
what happened. Like it's definitely like something that in a way it's unavoidable with his popularity. Like if you just look at the final stream numbers on his channel too, he was hitting almost 50K. Like when that many people see it, it's almost inevitable. Like literally 99.9% chance of happening. That someone takes it upon themselves to kind of do that. So I don't really blame Forsen for the circumstances. I don't blame him for taking the win because it's a competition after all with $5,000. It's definitely not chump change. So he should take that win. And in the end, it's like it's not his fault to do that. So and some people get like mad at Forsen for it. It's like that's just who he is. It's his brand. That's his stream.
Yeah.
And also, in the first Play It Cool event, he also kind of got the wrong end of the stick as well.
Oh yeah, he got screwed last year.
And Savjz actually won that one too because of
Yeah,
rules clarification. And Savjz was in a similar position as Forrest, and he was just like, I'm going to play, I'm going to win, and also like Forsen had not only was like there was a misunderstanding with rules, but he was even favored in the best of 3 in the final because he's playing Zoo against Mech Shaman, and he lost that. So just kind of like really salty overall feelings from the event, and that's what's so humorous in the end about this event. Like we can look at it 5 years down the line, and what's going to be hilarious is that they've had only 2 times of this tournament, and both of them literally end the exact same way but opposite with the results. So that's what just blows my mind.
Yeah. All right. Well, great last thoughts there, and I hope they do it again next year, and they just learn all the lessons they have, because again the event was really cool. I mean, it was definitely a lot of fun. The concept of 24-hour and just like basically grinding and see who can get the highest. I mean, that's a great concept, and hopefully they'll do it again. All right,
Yeah.
kind of moving through the rest of the news kind of quickly because I do want to get Eloise on here. Star Ladder was great, another great kind of event month. I don't know how many months Star Ladder's been going on, but definitely a long-standing type of event that had the finals this past weekend too. Stan Sifka ended up winning it over Tice. Tice made another finals, so I mean, if he would have won another tournament, it would have been pretty crazy. I was kind of trying to catch both events, Play It Cool and Star Ladder, like jumping kind of from both. But you guys, just really quickly, you guys catch any of that or no? Or obviously not Savjz, but Frodan, you catch any of Star Ladder or no?
I was at the event too, ChanManV.
Yeah, I know you were, but maybe you caught some of that too. I don't know.
Well, I was like, I heard that right after the event that Stan Sivka, that his freeze mage had no Alex Strasa, and I thought it was a joke, but now I'm looking at the deck
No,
list,
it
it
does.
actually has no Alex Strasa in it.
Yeah, that was pretty much what everybody was talking about too. But you can check out the decks, guys. Here, actually, let me link you guys the decks here. But
yeah,
Starlight was
so a couple of things stand out. The first is that only one player, or sorry, two players don't play Paladin, and that's Orange and Stan Sivka out of the finalists. And Stan Sivka ended up winning the thing, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But everyone else brought Paladin too, and I think.
Oh, that's true. Wow, I didn't realize that before.
And they're also bringing the Mysterious Challenger Paladin. Some of them had the option, of course, of playing like Strife Crow's mid-range Paladin or the one that Trump brought to NA, but that's really interesting as well. And there's a couple schools of thought. It's like now that Patron is cycled out because of the nerf, then that means that everything that Patron was good against gets better, and then things around that kind of just kind of build. So if Mysterious Challenger has the least amount of weak matchups across the board, then people expect that to kind of rise up. And then of course that's actually like a really interesting thing about Druid. People were starting to say that they're like getting tired of watching Druid, and at the same time, will Druid ever really go away? People are kind of speculating if Handlock now goes away because it's not as good against Patron, which you expect to see, and plus Druid and Hunter are also still popular because Hunter is good against the Mysterious Challenger Paladin if you play a very fast variant of it. So it's very interesting to see like how the meta is just kind of like sifting right now, but I don't think anything is set in stone, and I think this tournament like represents like that people have their own ideas, whether it's Freeze Mage or Casino Mage being a regular thing. How silly is that, by the way, that people legitimately are bringing Casino Mage to tournaments?
Hey, why not, man? Just if you roll the dice right, it just runs people over, right?
I guess
it's like a 50-50 type of deck.
It's like what Firebat says. He says literally if you start with Mana Worm, you just don't lose.
Exactly.
That deck.
Exactly. But definitely good job by the Star Ladder folks, and hope to see just they continue doing Star Ladder season 2 at least this coming year. Next up, let's see, a couple of analytics things. So Hearth Arena released their Overwolf overlay. I'm not sure if you guys Arena players out there that have been using Hearth Arena. They actually got this cool overlay now that you can use. That I know Jeremy's been coding for a long time now. But it's great. It like integrates all the picking and stuff for you. As you're playing Arena, which is really, really nice. Definitely go and check that out if you guys play Arena and use Hearth Arena a lot. And then Hearthstats apparently is shutting down, or there was some little bit of controversy about the owner of Hearthstats just shutting down the site, and I know a lot of people like to use it really to track their decks and their stats. So hopefully that doesn't happen. It sounds like the expenses were honestly like crazy. It was like a crazy amount, and I can't actually believe that it cost as much as it does for him. But that would be too bad. I just wanted to mention it just because that would be too bad if the Hearthstats ended up, going away too, because this is a card game. So any kind of analytics tool I think is really important, and I think a lot of people use it. Any quick thoughts on that before we move on? Frodan and Savjz. You guys use it? You guys use either of those sites? The analytics sites? Okay.
The costs seem kind of ridiculous that he mentions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's lying about that. Some people are like, "Oh, he's totally lying." He's not lying about it.
It doesn't seem like he's lying. Like,
no, he's not
all
lying.
That stuff. I don't think he's lying.
But his code must be terrible. I mean, as a developer myself, or former developer engineer,
that's probably the thing.
Not good at all if he's paying that much.
So there's either two things about it: either he is scamming people, or he's he's a little clueless about what's going on and gets taken advantage of. So basically, for people who don't really like understand, is that there's a really cool program, Hearthstats, and he's going bankrupt, so he's like closing it down. But then when he says he's closing it down, people say they'll donate. But when they say they donate, he's like, well, it costs $6,000 per month for just the server alone. Everyone's like, well, why does it cost that much? Like, surely it doesn't require you to have that much maintenance cost over maintaining the entire program. So they're a
Well,
little bit, sketchy on what's actually happening there. So he took down the Patreon page, I think, and took down his post because I don't think Jeffrey's like that. I've
yeah,
worked with him a
I've
couple
worked
times.
with
In fact, he was the guy who helped uh, first program the Tempo Storm website, the very first one when Reynad
Oh,
announced
wow.
the Become Legendary meme that's now existent, which is equally ironic considering he got ranked 2 in a streamathon. So I know him, and I've worked with him a couple times, and he doesn't strike me as that kind of guy. I'd be very surprised if it ended up being that way, but for the most part, I don't think so. I mean, the fact that he even like took it down and removed the post and like stopped accepting Patreon stuff, then kind of shows you that he's not really trying to.
Yeah,
I
I know
trying to
Jeff.
sham people.
I've known Jeff for a while too. I mean, at least seen talk. I don't think I've never worked with him directly on any kind of project, but yeah, he doesn't. He definitely doesn't seem like that type of guy. And I think the Patreon, if I'm correct, the sequence of events started after people had mentioned that they would donate. You know, like he basically said he was going to shut it down just because he was, losing. He just couldn't afford to keep it going. And then I think he started the Patreon after that, and then people were, then he kind of mentioned how much and it was costing, and then people, that's what people were kind of thinking he, the whole scamming thing or whatever. But the reality of it is, I think his code was just not really good, and he was using like AWS, which is kind of like a dynamic type of, it charges you based on how much CPU you use and how much, space you use. So that can like ramp up really, really huge if you're not writing very efficient code. So
Yeah.
that's probably what was happening. It's unfortunate because it should have probably cost like, like an eighth of that, or maybe even less than that. Actually,
I don't know. I'm not
yeah,
a developer. You are.
Yeah, but that's too bad. It would be cool to have it continue going. But last thoughts before we take a quick break here on the Warsaw and Commander nerf. Just a couple things. Ben released his video literally right after Value Town last week, just really talking about why, just the motivations for doing it. Clearly it was future design. They want to be able to do more. They want to be able to add things like Dreadsteed to, as a neutral minion instead of having it be specific to Warlock, because Warsaw Commander was obviously a problem with making a neutral, and having it just be in the warrior deck, just kind of endless types of steeds, that sort of thing. Totally get that, but Edwakta followed up with a video that really bashed him, and because it didn't seem like that change really took into account Arena, which I think he's right. I mean, I think Arena doesn't get anything at all from and it's negatively impacted too by the nerf. But any last comments? I mean, I'm sure it's kind of been talked ad nauseum, but any last comments by both of you guys?
Well, I want to say on that I think it's really awesome that Ben Brody is reaching out to the community that way with his video blogs, and I hope he keeps doing it in the future on different topics as well. Like that, I think it's very important and it's very smart, and he should definitely keep doing it.
My last comment is that I think charge and stealth are two mechanics that never should be the strongest mechanics in the game based off the way Hearthstone is because you can't really interact with it as much. Stealth's more manageable because there are ways to interact with it in the end. It's like if it says kill a random minion or AoE damage, but even then it's not like extreme. It's definitely on the less interactive side of it. So those things getting nerfed is just better for the health of the game overall. Like fundamentally, if you think about everything about that's ever plagued Hearthstone, is because those things happen immediately, whether it's charge minions or spells, which kind of have charge anyways, like spells immediately do damage. So look at Freeze Mage, for example. So everything that kind of immediately has impact and just does not allow you to respond to it really sucks. So I think it did deserve to get nerfed. Whether or not that card actually needs to be printed that exact way is up for debate, but right. I'm all for making sure charge never truly dominates the meta again.
Yeah. I'm really happy about it as well. I'm happy to see the card gone. And some of the people reacted really strongly on how bad the card is right now, but I think that's like a minor thing in comparison to getting rid of that mechanic that is so harmful for the future design and maybe like the interactive play style. I think that the fact that it got removed is like 100 times like a more important nice thing than it is a bad thing for Arena that there's like one weak-ish common. But I do still agree that it could have been a better stat line and it could have helped out.
Well, it's just this is like, I think, one of many things. This is kind of like the last straw. At least from the standpoint of like Ed Walked video. Just they should have an arena person, right? That basically is on the design team and says, hey, that change that you're suggesting doesn't really take arena into account at all. I think that's just all he's saying. And yeah, so I think he does have a point, but I totally agree with all the rest of that. I mean, the change was needed. Everything else about it was needed. Okay, well, let's take a quick break, guys. We're gonna come back. We're gonna do some Tavern Brawl, some fun deck building, and we're gonna have Eloise come on the show and have some fun with us here. But just a reminder, we have a Patreon set up for Valuetown at patreon.com/Valuetown. Thanks to all the current patrons for supporting the show, helping me keep the show going for a long time. And one other thing I wanted to mention is, actually, I'll mention it at the end of the show. Anyways, this Valuetown, guys, we're going to take a quick break, so we'll be right back.